In this video, we're going to be exploring the process of launching the Table Designer and using it to create a table based on exercise 10.2 in chapter 10 of the book. Now, of course, it begins by launching SQL Server Management Studio. So we'll go to All Programs, Microsoft SQL Server 2012, and then SQL Server Management Studio. Once the Studio launches, you'll need to connect to the database server. And we're going to connect to Server 1 with Windows authentication. And you'll notice that it's passing through the currently logged on user, which is the administrator. I'll click Connect. Now, note that you do not have to be logged on as a domain administrator or a server administrator in order to create tables in SQL Server. To create tables in SQL Server, you just have to have the right permissions on the database in order to accomplish that. So I'm logging on as an administrator, which happens to also be a SQL Server administrator, so I have full capabilities to do whatever I want within both the databases and within SQL Server in this case. To get to your Table Designer, you'll first expand the Databases node, and then the database that you want to work with. You can work with the Books database, which is what the book actually provides to you. I'm going to use the Sales database, so it's a little bit different, giving you some variety, and we'll expand tables. And as you can see, I currently have only system tables and file tables in this database. In a previous video, we created multiple file groups within this database, so we're going to take advantage of those now as we create a table or two. So I'll right-click on Tables and choose New Table. And that's really all there is to launching the Table Designer. I am now in the Table Designer. If you've used tools like Microsoft Access, you've seen something similar to this, in that you have the ability to define a column here, the data type, and whether or not you'll allow nulls for that column. And then based on the column definition, you'll see various properties here at the bottom. So this is going to ultimately be our customers table. So let's begin with customer ID. And we'll make this an integer data type. And we'll not allow nulls because we want there to always be a value. Now notice that since I've made it an integer data type, you can see in the column properties here at the bottom that there are some values that are available to me. I can see the condensed data type matches, it's an integer. I can see whether or not this is an identity specification. And I can actually say, yes, this is an identity column. And I can say I want the seed to be 100,000, which means that my customer numbering would start at 100,000, and I'm incrementing by 1. So effectively, I'm creating an identity column, which is similar to an auto number column that you might be familiar with from Microsoft Access. So I have my first column name value, and before we create any other column names, let's go ahead and give this table a name. So I'm going to come to the table name field in the properties window, and remember, anytime you're in these views and you do not see the properties pane, simply press F4 to bring it up, or go to View, Properties window. So we'll go ahead and name this Customers. And we could give it a description if we desired, change the schema if we required. We're going to leave it on Server 1, of course. And what we're going to do is come down to the storage location, and let's just change this to being stored on the customer's file group that we created in a previous video and in an earlier exercise in the book. We could also change the text or image file group. I'm not going to have any text data types or image data types. I will have no binary large objects or blobs. And because of that, I don't need to change that file group. So now we have everything set up over here, and that allows us to come back over and continue on. So we could have here things like first name, and we could make that an nvarchar, and then last name, and also make that an nvarchar. And so what we're doing is indicating that it is a Unicode data type. It's variable in length, up to 50 characters long. And we could continue on then creating this table. And for each of these, we can choose whether we allow nulls or not. So maybe we, for some reason, are going to allow no first name, but they have to have a last name. Then we could do that. Let's add one more column, email. And we'll make it an nvarchar. But let's increase the size of this to 100, just to accommodate some of those really long emails. We'll allow nulls just in case there is no actual email address available for this customer. So we're allowing nulls for first name for the email, not for the customer ID, it's the identity column, and not for the last name. We'll click the X to close this, and it's going to ask if we want to save it. We'll say yes, and it will save it. Now we can right-click and choose Refresh, and we can see right here is my customers table. At this point, I can right-click, and I can choose to edit the top 200 rows. We can see there's nothing in here. Let's go to first name, and we'll put in here Tom Carpenter with an email address. And notice that when I tab out to the next record, it automatically gives this first person customer ID 100,000. If I come here, you can see that it is indicating to me values as I'm filling them in and that they're not saved yet. And when I hit tab, you see the auto number, the identity column, is doing its work. This one gets 100,001. So it's as simple as that. We can close it down. No need to really save anything when you're closing a table like that you're editing, because it's simply saved as you tab out. As you leave the record, it saves it automatically. So now if we right-click and choose to select the top 1,000 rows, although there will only be 2 rows to select, you can see that it is coming back with these 2 records that I have just created in that table, and here's the query that it generated for me. We'll close this, and now we can create other tables. So to create your next table, you simply right-click, choose New Table, and begin creating column names, set up your table properties in the Properties pane, and then set any column properties that you desire. I would encourage you to take some time exploring these various column properties if you plan to take the Microsoft exams. This way you'll understand some of the properties that are available to you. If you come across one, you're not sure what it is, you can click in the column property field in the bottom pane and then press F1 to get more help. You can also usually search MSDN at the Microsoft website to get more information as well.